Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a few minutes. And we'll go from there. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Ellen Rathje, and I'm the Director of DesignSafe, and I'm also a professor here at the University of Texas at Austin. And I'm excited to give you a bit of an update for DesignSafe for 2025 and beyond. You are likely aware that there's been a bit of a delay in the renewal of NHERI and the NHERI elements such as DesignSafe. So I'm here just to provide you an update on some of the things that we've been doing and some of the plans that we have as we go into this last quarter of 2025 and into 2026. The first and foremost, I want to start saying we are open for business. We get lots of questions. What's happening to my data? Can I still use DesignSafe? Can I still use the NHERI resources? Yes, we are open for business. The data depot is functioning. Access to high performance computing is functioning. We're providing new accounts, new allocations. And so please do not hesitate to use DesignSafe today and in the future. And if we look at the different components of DesignSafe, you've probably seen this slide before, or if you've used DesignSafe, you've navigated it yourself. But we have opportunities to access data, and that's either through the data depot or the reconnaissance portal. We'll talk about both of those today. And then, of course, we have access to tools and applications which support simulation and data analytics for all of our researchers using the data that is in the data depot. And so I'll be again addressing some advances in that realm as well. So in terms of the updates, this is kind of the main things and the main points that I'm going to make today. First, a lot of work has been going on here at DesignSafe to evolve the interface of DesignSafe to take advantage of AI. So I'll show you a bit of our beta version of the DesignSafe AI chatbot and give you some examples of how it can be used. We also have heard a lot from folks who want to publish research software and get a DOI for that software within the Data Depot. So we'll talk about some work we've done establishing guidelines and new functionalities to publish research software. We have the reconnaissance portal, which has a new look and feel. So we've upgraded the look and feel, and we now integrate it with OpenTopography data, which is often data that might be relevant when you're looking at a natural hazard event. Importantly, moving on to tools, we've enhanced our implementation of used tools such as OpenSees, as well as some newer tools such as Kalpana, which works with AdCirc output. We've done some work with our Jupyter instances on our HPC resources, high performance computing resources, and we've also provided some guidance on how you can use DesignSafe to not just publish files, but also use relational databases. And then finally, I'll talk a bit more about the technical training that we're continuing to give with some of our upcoming webinars. And for those of you who may have just joined, I just want to point out that during the webinar, you can type any questions into the Q&A that you should see down at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer those at the end of the webinar. And we'll also be able to open it up to, if you raise your hand, to verbally ask questions as well. All right, so what is this AI evolution of the interface? Well, this is not quite in production yet, but we're testing it almost as we speak. And the one difference you'll see here on the right-hand side is the Ask AI button. And when you push that, you'll be prompted, kind of like any large language model, to ask a question. And importantly, our AI chatbot will search both the Data Depot publications as well as the DesignSafe documentation. So those are the two main sources that are being queried by your prompt. So here's an example for a question you might ask about data in the data depot. What data sets use LiDAR to study landslides from earthquakes? Clearly, I made this question. Now, you don't have to tell the chatbot that you're looking for the data depot. It, in fact, interprets your question and realizes that's a question for the data depot side, not the documentation side. It will look up some information and construct a response, and it will list, in this case, some data sets and not only provide a link to them, but also the relevance in terms of your prompt and how it relates back to the question you were asking. Now, another question you might simply say, how do I publish software? So in this case, you don't have to tell it to go to the documentation. Our chatbot knows that that query or interprets that query to be routed to the documentation subsystem. It generates a response and gives you an answer and then links into the documentation for various detailed information. So here you can see we're trying to make it easier and more intuitive to query the data depot and the documentation to find the information that you want. Now, as I said, this is a beta version. There's a lot of fine-tuning and enhancements that we'll be working on, but we're looking forward to releasing this in the next couple of months. Now, that's a good segue. That last prompt is a good segue to the concept of publishing research software. If you've published data if you've published in the data depot, if you've created a project to collaborate with colleagues, you know that when you create a project, you must select a type, experimental, simulation, field research, but now we have added research software as a separate component. And you may realize from the little icon there is that we have an integration with GitHub. And we have heard this from many users, as well as our advisory board, is that software development is often managed in GitHub. But then once you make a release, once a software version has been released, and you want to get a DOI, you want to publicize it in DesignSafe, and it'd be nice if the DOI came from DesignSafe. Clearly, we know that GitHub does have a integration with Zenodo as well, and you could in fact get the DOI from Zenodo, but most of your users are likely to find it through DesignSafe. So we have a GitHub integration for those researchers who use GitHub to manage their development, and the DOI that's assigned by DesignSafe can be exposed in your GitHub release, as well as the software being available in the DesignSafe Data Depot. Now, we realize not everyone uses GitHub to manage their software development, and so you can also directly upload software and metadata for that software if you're not using GitHub. So this is just a look at what the GitHub integration looks like. Once you've created a project, you find the URL for your release, and you basically transfer the zip file that contains all of the relevant files. We must have the code meta file, which provides some of the metadata about the code, as well as a README. And so if you are managing things in GitHub, this should be pretty simple to get your files in, get published, and get a DOI. We've, of course, updated our user guide. So first of all, just explaining, why we have research software, what are some of the requirements, and we even have a proper and a formal definition of research software. And if we, again, go into other sections of the user guide, we use the definition from the Journal of Open Source Software. It kind of describes things as shown here. Here are some of the requirements needed, and we also provide some guidance on what does not qualify as research software. So we're hoping that we can provide a better mechanism and service for those who are trying to make their software most broadly available. Now, if we look at the reconnaissance portal, if you've seen this before, you realize it's got a bit of a different look and feel. We've been so successful with cataloging natural hazard events is that if you remember, this used to have big map pins everywhere, almost that you couldn't even see the map. So we've now had to use functionalities where we group them. As you zoom in, you'll see the individual events. Better searching. If you know the event you're looking for, you can either, again, look via the map, or you can do a search if you know exactly the name of the event you're looking for. And then when you get down to the event-specific map, what you will see is not only the name of the event, the reconnaissance data that's available, but these gray regions represent open topography data sets. And if you're not aware of open topography, it's a separate cyber infrastructure that focuses simply on topographic data. And of course, whether you're talking about landslides or wildfires, topography often will play a role, and so is relevant to understanding the effects of that natural hazard. So you can see what data are available. If you click on a location, you see the the yellow. I've selected this open topography data set. I learn about a little bit about what about that data set. Probably importantly, the date when it was collected. Also, it's point cloud data, and we see the DOI. And if you click on that DOI link, you'll actually go to the open topography site, to the page with that data where you can access that data. Now, this is not full integration where we can transfer the data into DesignSafe, at least not yet, but this helps you more easily identify what open topography data sets would be relevant for your natural hazard event that you may be studying or interested in. Okay, so that's a bit on the data depot reconnaissance portal side. Let's move up now, talk a little bit about tools and applications. And again, we have a plethora of tools and applications. I'm going to focus first on OpenSees and some of the enhancements and streamlining we have done with the help of Sylvia Mazzoni, as well as some of the training documentation to put all the pieces together. So if you click on the OpenSees page, you see that we have very many different versions of OpenSees available. Sometimes that's the confusing part. Should I use OpenSees MP? What's actually in the Jupyter Hub? What is OpenSees Express? And so that is where we've streamlined the documentation and developed a quick start guide to help you understand which version of OpenSees you might want to use, as well as which computational system, which resource you might want to use as well. But importantly, this is our user guide, which is again available through the left-hand navigation page. But something new that we've added to the user guide in several sections are some training resources. And the training resources are an archive of materials from previous webinars. And we just did, Sylvia just did a webinar on OpenSees a few weeks ago. So if you click on training resources, you can see lots of information from her webinar here. But here are some examples from other training webinars, such as the database API training, something on explainable AI, accelerating Python, and each of these have their own training repo where there will be Jupyter books or Jupyter examples that you can use. So what's nice about this is you don't only have the recording of the webinar, which we always make available, but also the materials that were used in that webinar. So if we take a closer look at OpenSees, the OpenSees training resource, this really grew as we knew we needed more information on training, and not just OpenSees. What you can see here is there's a lot to explain simply the computational framework and architecture at the Texas Advanced Computing Center, because those are the resources you're using. So Sylvia did a great job providing this background information of what's available at TAC, but then importantly boils it all down to three things. Do you want to run OpenSees from the web portal? Do you want to run OpenSees on the Jupyter Hub? Or do you want to directly go onto the HPC systems and run OpenSees from the command line? And I will say that the most powerful with the least amount of complexity is running OpenSees from on and from the Jupyter Hub. And the beautiful thing about using the Jupyter Hub is you can interactively develop your input script. You can do your pre and post processing of the data from your analyses. You can do exploratory analyses. We've got OpenSees running on the Jupyter kernel itself, such that you don't have to use the HPC system, say, to test a few things out. But then ultimately, if you're running a big job or a lot of jobs, you can submit jobs to the high performance computing systems directly from your Jupyter notebook. So there is a lot here that you can do from the Jupyter Hub. It's not just about doing a few plots in using Python. And importantly, as I mentioned, the training repos have a lot of resources, such as here, you've got an entire Jupyter notebook that you can open in DesignSafe and will show you exactly how to run OpenSees from this interface. So there's a lot there. You can find the training repo again from our user guide. If you want to just watch the webinar or parts of the webinar that Sylvia did a couple of weeks ago, you can go to the Learning Center, hit training, scroll down, and you'll see the entire webinar recorded here and available on YouTube. Now, another place that we've been working on is to help our AdCirc users, and not just those who use AdCirc or do AdCirc simulations, but those who want to use AdCirc output. And then for those of you who may not be aware, AdCirc does storm surge modeling. So very relevant in hurricane season, looking at when the hurricane comes aground, where will the storm surge occur. However, when you run an AdCirc analysis, it dumps the output in NetCDF format, which can be difficult to interpret, analyze. Often you want to put it in a GIS framework. And so Kalpana takes the AdCirc output, which is in NetCDF, and converts it to shape files so that you can then use QGIS, ArcGIS to plot the results. But AdCirc outputs are huge. They're modeling large swaths of area. So often this has to actually be run, even this conversion, using the HPC systems at TAC. And so again, diving into the Kalpana app, it's relatively easy to use. We've updated the interface. It's working on our, I think, the Vista system, or Stampede 3. Oh, nope, Stampede 3, there it is. And all you have to do is provide that AdCirc output file and provide some additional information. And of course, we've updated the Kalpana user guide, giving you some guidance on what are the variables or specifications that you need to provide. This really is helpful if AdCirc researchers are publishing AdCirc output in the data depot, which my colleague Clint Dawson does, as well as others. But they may just, because of the space requirements or the efficiency, publish it in NetCDF. But you, as an engineer who want to look at the impact of the storm surge, want it in shapefile format. Here, you can take someone's NetCDF output that they generated and published in DesignSafe, bring it to the Kalpana app, and get out those shape files that you then can integrate into QGIS with lots and lots of other type of data. Moving over to Jupyter, which I know many of you use, we basically have boiled this down to two versions of Jupyter. A Jupyter Hub, which just works on our Kubernetes cluster, so basically like virtual machine. Or do we want to run Jupyter directly on the HPC systems because we need extra memory, more cores to do an analysis? And so the Jupyter Hub pretty much works the way we've had it work in the past, but the Jupyter HPC is a little bit different. If you've used it before, you would have seen HPC GPU versus CPU. It's now all in one. So if you go to Jupyter HPC native, first of all, it can support custom kernels, which means you can define a kernel with all the user-defined Python packages you want. Maybe it's got PyTorch because you're going to do some AI modeling. And that means you can put your custom Python kernel here, and when it gets fired up, everything will be preloaded. You don't need to do that, but we are now supporting that. And then you can see here when you get to the configuration, GPU versus CPU, that's where you decide whether you're going to do CPU versus GPUs, depending on the resource you need. And then you have the other information you need to provide in terms of runtime, nodes, and cores. Now, the last thing in this section to mention is how we're trying to move or support researchers who want to use relational databases. And we can get into a long discussion of why you might want to use a relational database, but it can simply be more efficient to save your data that way rather than some huge flat file in a CSV or Excel file. And so we are providing support for SQLite, and will allow you to create, manage, and analyze those data. We kind of provide some information on like why you might want to use SQLite, and then provide this use case. And you can see this is in the user guide, but as part of the user guide, we have use cases. And under the data analytics use cases, there's your SQLite management in DesignSafe. And so this was done by Scott Brandenburg and Krishna Kumar. And they put together this example. And you can see here again, this example. When you see this blue icon, you can open the SQL or whatever is here. you can open the Jupyter Notebook essentially directly in DesignSafe. And so when you see that, know that we're trying to provide you with that type of resource to get started. One last thing to mention here is that we are obviously not the only partner that's working on computational simulation. And so the Sim Center and all of their tools continue to be available. The Sim Center is similarly still open for business, working with users, responding to tickets. And so I encourage you to check out the Sim Center tools as well. So 2025 and beyond, and this is where Tim told me I needed to put Buzz Lightyear, because to infinity and beyond, that is what we are thinking for DesignSafe and NHERI. So as we go into this fall season and into 2026, we have a couple of training webinars planned for DesignSafe. One is about interacting with published data sets, which will be November 5th. So we all know that there are data in the data depot. A lot of researchers download data and then use it locally, but we have services where you can keep all of your analysis and computation and interactions with the data in the data depot, and we'll talk a bit about that at that webinar. On November 12th, we'll do an introduction to data science using DesignSafe, so talking, scikit-learn, and the other AI tools and of increasing complexity. And so that will be done on November 12th. So in about a month's time. We also have some webinars that are focused on research enabled by DesignSafe. Jamie Paget will be doing a webinar on fine-tuning and applying ML foundation models, specifically applied to image segmentation for disaster debris. And that will be done December 5th. And Jean-Paul Pinelli and his colleagues at FIT will be talking about empirical fragility curves for wind loading derived from field observations. And we are still trying to finalize a date for that. So we will continue to have training webinars because we want to continue to encourage people to use the DesignSafe resources. Our user support continues. Just to be clear, if you come on today and create a new account, you will be onboarded. You'll get your resources today the same as you would have 3 months ago. We are responding to tickets. So submit your tickets, help at designsafe-ci.org or through the online interface. So we'll be responding to tickets. We will provide HPC allocations. The Slack team is open, and we still have researchers who will be responding to any questions there. And we continue to have curation office hours Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time, and those are held by Maria Esteva, our data curator, and you can see we've got the link right here. This is actually, you find the link, you can find it in the user guide or directly here. And this is where, Maria says that many times people are coming to DesignSafe, to the office hours and saying, what's happening with DesignSafe? What's happening with the Data Depot? And we're here to tell you, yes, we continue to accept your data, publish your data. And once data is published with a DOI, we have committed to making it accessible to the research community in perpetuity, as long as we can. I will tell you that the Texas Advanced Computing Center, TAC, who does the software development for DesignSafe, they have data going back decades, and they continue to make it available. And it will still be available through a web interface, no matter what. If in a worst case scenario funding went away, we would still make that data available. And we have thought through some of the mechanisms needed to do that. The way we save the published files, we can easily zip them up such that you'd be able to find them. But we are optimistic that funding will continue for NHERI and DesignSafe, but you should not fear that the data will go away if for some reason that funding does not come through. We are committed to making that data available long into the future. So we do have some development activities we continue to work on. We're fortunate because DesignSafe leverages the software developers at TAC. No one's 100% on DesignSafe, on the DesignSafe grant. We're able to leverage some of the other funding at TAC to make sure that we still have software developers available, as well as we still have some additional funding from the NSF. And with that, we're going to continue our development of our AI chatbot. We will continue refining the training of the chatbot itself. We'll expand it, for instance, maintaining the history of the session so it will remember what its answer was, and you can basically have a conversation with the chatbot, just like you can with Claude or ChatGPT. We are coming up on needing to be recertified as a core trust seal data repository. So we received this certification in 2023. We're up for renewal in 2026, and it's a big deal to be certified by Core Trust Seal. Fewer than 4% of data repositories worldwide have that certification. So we are working on submitting that application for recertification, and that will involve a bit of enhancements on our documentation, but also the Data Depot itself. And I'll just point out a couple of things that you may have noticed if you've looked at any published data sets. This looks in some ways similar to what you're used to. You can download the full data set. We give you the full citation to use if you're going to cite the data. But some of the metrics tracking has evolved. Last year, I talked a little bit about how we track unique requests and unique investigations. But something now that we're piloting is providing you the citations. So if people are publishing papers that cite your data, we will not only count them, but we will then add, and again, like I said, we're piloting this, it's not out, not released yet, we will provide the list and of the papers that are citing your data. So again, very similar to how you might look in Google Scholar when you say, oh, who cited this paper? Here you'll be able to see who cited your data set. And then I figured I'd end with just on a positive note, thinking about or just demonstrating the impact that we've had over the last 10 years, thanks to so many users such as yourself. If you look at our usage metrics, and these are a couple months old, but they're still pretty good, we have over 10,000 registered users. We have over 1,800 data sets published that encompass 50 million files, and they've been accessed over 800,000 times. On the high performance computing side, we have supported on average 50,000 jobs per year, 60 million core hours per year, and we have a wide range of tools and applications that use the HPC systems. We're supporting research funded by a diverse set of sources. Of course, we're supporting researchers who have NSF funding, 6 different directorates, no less, but various different federal agencies, and state agencies as well. And so we're really seeing DesignSafe being adopted by the broader natural hazards research community, whether you're funded by NSF or not. And then last but not least, if we look at citations to DesignSafe data and or research enabled by DesignSafe, we're really seeing an acceleration. In 2024, there were almost 4,600 citations. If we aggregate these since we started operating in about 2016, we're over 11,000. And of course, you can see it is certainly accelerating. So with that, I will finish my presentation and see if there are any questions. Nobody asked any questions in the Q&A. Oh my goodness. I should have given extra credit if there were questions. Natalie, what's the best way to make sure we can see if there are any people want to ask a question?
If they raise their hand, we can
Okay.
probably do it that way, or yeah.
Okay, if you raise your hand, I can I can enable you to talk. I really only put together about 30 minutes of content with the idea that I'm happy to be here to answer any questions. Everyone's so shy. Let's see. Oh, I see something. Will your chatbot be, there's a Q&A in the Q&A window from Matt Shetler asking, will the chatbot be answering user support questions or just querying the data depot? So I think I showed you that example where you can ask user support questions like, how do I publish data? How do I run OpenSees? And you will get an answer. And the chatbot is designed to interpret the question and figure out, should it go to the data depot or the user support? And we can talk to you, Matt, if you'd like, about how we could do something like that for SimCenter. Any other questions? This is worse than class, waiting for people to ask questions because I can't see your faces. Any other questions? Yeah, maybe I should start calling on people that I know. Let's see. Now everyone who's in the attending and that I know is going to be all worried I'm going to call on them. So all right. I'll give you another minute. Maybe I'll hang around. We really look forward to supporting the research community far into the future. And I would love to hear from folks if they have any questions or comments or ideas. We are ready to write a DesignSafe 3.0 proposal. We were working on that before we had this bit of a delay. So, trying to figure out how do we support AI, different types of simulation. And so we're ready to go. And if you have any ideas and want to engage, I encourage you to send me an email. We look forward to hearing from you. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Have a good one.